Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to be able to participate in this very important conference on copyright in the visual arts organized by MCST and CAMS. Thanks CAMS and MCST for the kind invitations to be able to participate for discussions of copyright in visual art. Why I'm saying it's important, visual art copyright protection usually are not very popular subjects in terms of copyright collections. Earlier speakers already identified that usually people talk about collective management. We will talk about music or other category. But visual art is always being undermined. So I'll explain about the situation globally, and then we'll talk about the situation in Asia Pacific a little bit more in detail. Very brief introduction of CISAC is International Confederation Society of Authors Composers. We have 228 societies member in 111 countries and territories. Through them, we represent 5 million creators. We were founded in 1926, which means next year we are celebrating centennial celebration, 100 years of the organization. The red are the countries that we have society members. Our secretariat is located in France, Paris. Regional offices in Hungary, Rwanda, Chile, China. My office is in Beijing. I'm from Hong Kong myself. Our members don't only represent visual art, but we also represent music, drama, audiovisual, literature. But we only represent, our members only represent creators, not producers, and also studios. So these are the very important characteristics of our members. We have creators, our presidents and vice presidents. Right now, our president is Björn Ulvaeus, very important member of ABBA, very enthusiastic, energized person with energy because he's almost 80s, but he's very strongly advocating for copyright protection. I'm sure some of you realize that he's been recently very active in voicing out the impact of AI in the UK. So this is something he's still fighting for us around the world. Yvonne Chaka Chaka, South African singer-songwriters. In the visual art sectors, we have Kazuhiko Fukuoji, a Japanese painter, very famous painter, and Hela Singh Ray and Toru Makis are the other vice presidents. These are the members in this region. Not many visual art related members. We only have 5 right now, but we have 2 in Korea. Kola and SAC are 2 members of CISAC. In fact, in the Asia Pacific region, we have the most members in Korea. So we have 6 members in Korea, which means we can see the copyright protection in Korea is very important and doing very well amongst the country in this region. Some statistics I want to share with you. I didn't share about the global picture. As I said, the global collections, the visual arts usually are not being, the potential are not realized. So we only represent less than 10% of the whole market of the global royalty collections. Even that, the collections are mostly concentrated in Europe. You can see because, first of all, the rights in Europe is stronger. Secondly, they have longer history of protections of copyright. Unfortunately, we are still catching up in Asia Pacific region, very far behind in Europe. That's why what we hear in Korea that with the history of strong protections of copyright system, and we understand that there are very strong desire to promote the copyright protections of visual art. This is really a good opportunity to be showing as the leader in these regions to help us to strengthen the collections around this region So this is something we're really looking for, cooperating with the Korean governments to how we can work out a system that is work best in Korea. In the top 10 countries, you can see, unfortunately, none of them are from Asia Pacific. Mostly are European society, except in United States. But you can see the differences is still far a big gap with the European societies. Resale right is a very important part of the collections. You can see ranking from the the collection, the visual art collections. Resale right is almost number one. Reprography is number one, which means it's copying of the work. So these are the two main sources of income. Reproduction is also a very important source of income, and educational statutory license, broadcasting license, emerging more and more licensing opportunity is digital licensing, you can see. But one thing is very unique in European countries and also some African country is the private copying levy system, which is very important part of the source of the income for European countries. I know we tried a few years ago to try to introduce a system in Korea. Unfortunately, it was not passed through, and we hope that can be considered in the future how we can, as a package, and see how it will be impacting in the visual art with respect with the use of copying in different aspects, and also will be considered in Korea as well. These are the very breakdown in a more visual way. You can see the biggest are the reprography and resale rights, and coming after is the reproduction. Ranking for top 20, you can see some more Asia Pacific societies collections. Amongst all of them, you can see the strongest collection in Asia Pacific is Australia. My colleague from Pura Agency will be talking more about the situation in Australia, which is currently the best of all these models within Asia Pacific. And come after is Korea and Japan. One of the reasons I can say is, as I said earlier, the European system is stronger with longer history. The legislation is stronger so that they have more collections. I think another reason is the lack of understanding about the artists or the concept of copyright protections by artists in general in this region. Many artists, they're facing a lot of dilemma. They are either working very closely. Earlier we talked about the copyright agency and copyright trust situation. But more important is because the reality is artists, they want to sell the painting or the artwork, they have to work very closely with galleries. That's the reality. And in order to help them to promote their works. And this reality always, on one hand, is restricting the way to exercise the copyright. Sometimes they have to assign all the rights to the galleries. And even though the works, the artists do not assign all the works when they sell the works, but there's a problem, is general lack of understanding. They thought they sold the work, but they didn't know that there are any copyright thereafter they can make use to help them to collect royalties thereafter. So I think this is very important missions of the society to promote copyright in general, recruit members to educate artists in general that copyright royalties would be one of the way to sustain their living by earning and continuous royalties out of their works and success. So this is something we always hope to be more promoted in this region, to educate more people to understand more about the collections. But what rights are the society usually manage? We said that resale right, reprographic right, reproduction right, private copyright, TV, radio, digital, broadcasting, exhibitions, background, and others rights. But more important is the society in other country, they play the role trust management and agency as well. Because artistic work is slightly different with musical or audiovisual works and other works is the members can choose to reserve the rights to exercise themselves, at the same time to give the rights to the society to help them to manage. Also, there are, we say even for society, they can do transactional licensing for merchandise or exhibitions, reproductions purpose, and also blanket license like in broadcasting and also statutory license. My colleague from Australia, and UK will explain more about what they're doing in practice, but this is what generally will be a society is doing for helping their members to exercise their rights. This is an example of a French society, after they collect the royalties, or even they want to help the licensing doing better, they will keep a lot of thumbnail of the images to help either for the licensing purpose or help to do distribution purpose to build up this image bank. I think this is my UK colleague maybe will tell you about the situation in the UK. They're also working hard to building up this image bank to help with the licensing and distribution as well. So distribution is one of the very important part of the work of a society, so that we will try to do the work after collections, get the usage report, and then do it transparently to distribute the royalties back to their members. So this is an example of some of the detail of the work that is in the image bank in a French society, ADAGP. Under CISAC, we work together with creators, with society. We formed the International Council of Creators of Graphic, Plastic, and Photographic Arts, gathered together for a forum for them to exchange the experience and also doing some administrative of exercising the administration of collective management by working together for some tools that work together to help to improve the efficiency of collections. Currently, our president is Kada Attia. He is an Italian artist, and Repertoire General is the CEO of ADAGP, Mahi Ann Verhifo. So she is very active in supporting the community. You can see France is the largest collections around the world. She is very active in supporting other societies. So we're using CIAGP, the platform built with CISAC societies and artists, to help to pass through guidance, binding resolutions and professional rules governs the activities of the societies to ensure societies are working in a very high standard of operations. Also, we'll do with the forums to exchange for discussions for many issues, local, regionals, and international issues, such as like technical tools I mentioned about. One of the issues I won't go into detail, we talk about it, is AI. In the visual art situation, I would say amongst many of the repertoire, they are one of the most vulnerable category. We saw Mr. Kim's presentation earlier about Ghibli, how probably many of you already have your Ghibli of yourself. This is the problem. We need respect. Our members, artists, or sometimes they already using AI as a tool to help them to do creations. But if their work are being used, especially for commercial purpose, I think that is very important that we will need to be considered for a way to help them to compensate the situation. So what we are having the principles right now for protecting, to safeguarding our rights in AI is 3 basic principles. I think any use of the data for AI training, we need to get consent or authorizations from the right holders. And also, licensing or remunerations system should be available to compensate the creators if their works are being used for learning and text and data mining purpose. Last but not least is transparency. I think a lot of AI companies said, it's difficult to do transparency. But the problem is under the many of legislations, AI companies are required to disclose the works are being used for AI training, for national security purpose, or personal data protection purpose. I don't see any problem for copyright purpose for disclosing which works are being used for training. It will be a problem as far as transparency is concerned. So these are the things we're talking with the resolutions to protect visual arts and possible steps for visual arts society do. Some of the steps is if the licensing options is available, we actually have advised amounts and also agree with some general guidelines of how to opposing unauthorized use of their members for text and data mining purpose, and also publish a comprehensive list for members' works excluded for TDM exceptions. And also in a licensing agreement, we have a specific clause for use for AI purpose. In fact, some of the members, like the ADAGP in the website, already have very clear opt-out declarations for not using the work for text and data mining purpose, especially under the European context, which is allowing for opt-out. So we hope the discussions in Korea about AI has to be especially think about how vulnerable artistic work it is, not just leaning on the music industry or the other industry, but also take into account the interests of visual artists. Another very important campaign that CISAC has been doing is resale right. We're very pleased that in Korea they have introduced the resale right. Right now it's being implemented. In fact, we have been lobbying very hard for international treaties or amending the international treaties to introduce resale right. Objection we have seen from some countries, but recently we have been positively asking WIPO to conduct 2 studies on resale rights, which can be found in WIPO, and we're working with different countries to continue to raise the awareness of resale right. Hopefully that can have international treaties on resale right. We have different versions of this resale right brochure, and the countries that where we resale right and recently added is Korea and New Zealand. And we're very happy to see this is happening, and we'll explain more about the situation in Asia. In Asia, as I said, overview, that is, we're lacking of the protections. In China, although there is a society, ICSC, but they only represent photographers, not really general covering of all the visual arts category, and mainly relying on textbook statutory license. So this is something we want to reform the society, enlarge their collections, so that also lobby resale right. In Japan, also the collection is very small. Unfortunately, you thought Japanese is a very also high protection of copyright system in Japan, but unfortunately, the artists are lack of education about copyright protections. They're not united. That's why it's very difficult. But recently, we're working to support the Japanese cartoonists to be able to collect the royalties in foreign countries. And this is something also as an educational purpose system. We hope more and more collections will be coming in Japan. Korea, we currently have 2 members, SAC and Color, to do the artist collections, but also the collections right now is not big, and hopefully we will see more and more collections will coming in for Korea. That's a photo we took last year together with some of the members and about discussions of how to implement the resale right, and we will continue to work with CAMS and MCST to provide our support to implement the system in Korea. Australia, I won't go into detail. My colleague will tell you about the situation of licensing and resale right collections. There are very interesting things about the collections in Australia. In New Zealand, as I said, the resale right introduced in 2023. They have a very good regulations drafted. It's a very good reference that Korea should take a look of the New Zealand that will contribute a lot to help them to draft the regulations. Right now, they set up a society called RRA. It's more the local Aboriginal language. It's called Resale Right Aotearoa. I'm not sure I will pronounce it rightly, but this is more a starting of the collections right now. But because under the system with European and also with UK, they have reciprocity so that they can collect also for each other, for European and also New Zealand artists. We'll wait and see the system will be working. Philippines is another country. They have the right for a long time. They have drafted the regulations recently, and they want to set up a society. I was actually in another MCST event on Monday in Manila. Now I'm coming for another event for MCST, and actually they are very hopefully to work together. The Filipino government want to work together with MCST, especially in to working together on the implementation of the resale right in the Philippines and in Korea. Hopefully more cooperation can be done between these two countries. This is missing Korea and New Zealand in this list, but we will add it, as I said earlier, we have more countries. But unfortunately, only in Australia is being implemented in this region. We hope more countries can adopt resale right, support the artists, because it's an inalienable rights cannot be taken away from the artist itself. My colleague will tell you more about resale right later. So to conclude, we hope this will be a very wonderful occasion to raise more awareness in copyright protections in visual art, not only in Korea, and hopefully Korea will do a very good example and how, just like other category of copyright protection, will be leading, not after K-pop, K-drama, but K-art, to help us to promote more, to strengthen the copyright protections in visual arts sector. Thank you very much.